Saeb Erekat, a prominent and perennial advocate of Palestinian statehood.
We need peace.
The 65-year-old dedicating much of his life to the cause, but he spent his last weeks fighting a different battle. After testing positive for the coronavirus in early October, he'd been in intensive care at an Israeli hospital where he died last night. His immune system fatally compromised following a lung transplant in 2017. Mr. Erekat's body returned to the West Bank where he resided. In his hometown of Jericho, news of his death rang out through mosque loudspeakers. A different call to prayer, mourners mobilising outside his house to pay their respects.
He was somebody who persisted despite tremendous odds, who stood up to extremely cruel attacks.
Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas describing him as the great fighter who fought to his last breath. For 3 decades, he relentlessly sought a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He caused a stir at the 1991 Madrid Peace Conference for draping a kafia around his neck, a symbol of Palestinian national identity. But it was those talks that set the stage for his long career as a chief negotiator. Mr. Erekat becoming one of the architects of the 1993 Oslo Peace Accords. Most recently, he was known as a fierce opponent of the Trump administration's policies on the conflict.
This is not a plan of peace. This is the scandal and the fraud of the century.
In 2018, he called for Arab nations to cut ties with Australia when it became one of the few countries to recognise West Jerusalem as Israel's capital. As tributes poured in, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's son controversially labelled him a terrorist. But to many Israelis he worked with, he was a peacemaker.
We had arguments, we had differences, but Saeb Erekat was a man of peace.
Just before he died, Saeb texted me, "I'm not finished with what I was born to do."
Mr. Erekat was born in Abu Dis near East Jerusalem, not far from the hospital where he died. The 65-year-old dying in the lands he was born in, but not in the state he sought.